If you didn't think the shareholder vote on Elon Musk's pay package isn't a big deal, well, two of Tesla's top employees have just implored everyone to get out and vote. And while they were doing that, they gave us some real insight into how Elon Musk works at Tesla, and it's fascinating. Let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. So before I begin, a huge thank you to everyone who's gone over to my Dr. AI channel and subscribed. Almost at 1,000. It took me 51 weeks on this channel to get to 1,000 subscribers. Like I said in yesterday's video, that channel is going to focus on AI and humanoid robots in a larger sense, while this channel focuses on Tesla and SpaceX more specifically. So if you don't mind going over there, give a subscribe, watch a video or two, that would be really fantastic. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. And also, before the main story, I just wanted to touch on this. Elon posted this a few hours ago. I've mentioned something like this before, but if any of my companies goes public, we will prioritize other longtime shareholders of my other companies, including Tesla. Loyalty deserves loyalty. So this is really fascinating. First of all, it's incredible to hear the CEO of a company saying that they will reward people who have been longtime Tesla shareholders. I've been for several years now. I hope that counts as long-term because I would love to take part in whatever the next big thing is. As you can see here, I took a stab at it that I thought it would be Starlink that would be spinning off of SpaceX and going IPO. That seems like the logical choice. The dark horse could actually be Neuralink. That would be really interesting, but I think that the logical choice at this point, it's big enough. It should probably spin off out of SpaceX and become its own separate entity. So that would be the logical choice. But the more important point, and it actually does tail into the rest of this video, is that as opposed to the way the media often spins him, Elon Musk, I call him almost pathologically honest. He tries to tell the truth almost all the time, and I think a lot of people think that he's scamming them. He is just one of the most radically honest people in the world, and it really throws people off because most people are used to people who don't really tell the truth all the time. So I think that's very important, and Elon has talked about this before. This is not the first time he has mentioned this, that loyalty deserves loyalty and that long-term Tesla shareholders will get an opportunity to invest in his other companies. He has said this before, and I'm convinced that whenever this next thing happens, he's going to make sure that long-term Tesla shareholders are rewarded for that. The other piece of this is the way that Elon thinks about his companies and the way he thinks about his mission. He really is a mission-driven person. All of his companies are not like companies in the traditional sense where it's like you go, you make a paycheck, you go home or something. All of them are mission driven. They are all about the future, making the future a better place. And that's exactly why I wanted to mention this before I get into the meat of the episode. So the first of the Tesla employees who wrote something was Ashok Eluswamy. If you don't know, he's the autopilot AI lead at Tesla. So not just any employee, but one of the biggest employees at Tesla, one of the most important employees. And so I want to read this, and then I'm going to read Elon's response to that, which actually goes into further detail about his stuff. And I'll let you know more about him in a second. Anyway, Elon Musk has been the key driver of AI and autonomy at Tesla. He has always pushed us to achieve great things, even when such ideas were seemingly impossible at the time. Some examples. Back in 2014, Autopilot started on a ridiculously tiny computer that had only 384 kilobytes of memory and puny compute, didn't even have native floating point arithmetic. What the hell were they using back then? That is, that's like a mobile chip in something that, phones are way, way, way better than that at this point. But anyway, that was a pathetic little mobile chip, probably in conjunction with Mobileye, probably an NVIDIA chip, but super tiny by today's standards. He asked the engineering team to implement lane keeping, lane changing, longitudinal control for vehicles, curvature, etc. Many, even in the team, thought that the request was crazy. Nonetheless, he never gave up and pushed the team to achieve this very difficult goal. In 2015, beyond all odds, Tesla shipped the world's first autopilot system. The second closest product only came to market many years later. If that sounds like SpaceX and their reusable rockets, then yeah, you're on the right track. That's the kind of dreams and the vision and the mission that Elon is on to make the world a better place. And just to be clear here, we're talking about autopilot, not full self-driving, obviously with that tiny little compute. There was no way they were doing that. This was something that was basically taking pictures, I believe, a few times a second of highway situations, right? Cars on the highway, it's limited access. It's just looking forward and saying, where is the lane? Where are the cars in front of me and behind me and beside me? All of that kind of stuff. And if the lane starts to turn or something, it turns. If it looks like it's getting too close to a car in front of it, it slows down. It had radar, it had ultrasonics, it had cameras, never had LiDAR, but it had a sensor suite, and they were using it to do autopilot and to actually stay in lane on the highways. And interestingly enough, up until version 11 dot something of the software, they were still using that really, really old autopilot software on the highway, which is the reason why it felt very robotic and very much behind what full self-driving on city streets was doing. by the later versions of FSD 11. And of course, FSD 12 is using the old stack version 11 of the highway software right now. I can't recall if 12.4 is actually moving to the single stack or if it's 12.5. But anyway, we should see that similar kind of impressive improvement when the highway stack catches up to what full self-driving on the city streets. So anyway, a little bit of context about how things have moved through the years. Next up, Ashok talks about Tesla's split from Mobileye, even though he doesn't mention Mobileye. You'll see he kind of avoids that, but we all know it was Mobileye. In 2016, Tesla started doing all of the computer vision required for autopilot in-house instead of depending on external vendors, Mobileye. Many people thought it was insane to bet the product on developing the vision system from scratch within a few months, which had taken other companies, Mobileye, a decade or more. Yet we achieved this target within 11 months. This was a strategically important move that started the development of a strong AI team at Tesla. Not only did he push for strong AI software, but also for powerful AI hardware, and this is really important too. It's not just the software, they've designed their own chips as well. Tesla, which others thought was just a car company, was making custom silicon to run neural networks efficiently. This hardware that was originally designed in 2017, that's 7 years ago, folks, came to production in February of 2019 and remains extremely competitive with hardware coming out to date. For reference, this 5-year-old AI computer has roughly 8 times the AI inference compute as the state-of-the-art Apple M3 chip. I'm running an M1 on the computer that I'm recording this on, so we're talking about really impressive performance here. It's still able to run the latest end-to-end neural networks built on top of the latest AI technology. And our Tesla Model 3, our Model Y has hardware 4, but our Model 3 still has hardware 3 in it, and that car is driving full self-driving 12.3.6 right now. It will get upgraded to 12.4, and it runs beautifully on that. It's just amazing. We're talking about hardware that was originally developed 7 years ago, is still operating at that kind of peak efficiency and performance. It's a real testament to Tesla's hardware team. Continuing on, he was the one who bet on vision and AI to solve autonomy instead of relying on sensor crutches and high-definition maps, and yes, this was a really big deal when it happened. For anyone who has experienced the latest version of full self-driving, it might be obvious that we can see all the important things and drive the car based on pure vision. However, back in 2020 and earlier, it wasn't obvious to most. In fact, many experts in the field ridiculed Tesla and Elon for these choices. We have proved them wrong by shipping supervised full self-driving to millions of cars and shown that with good AI software, the car is able to handle the complexities of city driving, such as making turns, handling intersections, yielding to pedestrians, etc., just by seeing outside. In fact, we even removed the radars and ultrasonics to just really focus on the heart of the problem, which is AI. Today, it's almost paradoxical that Teslas have the least amount of raw sensors, yet they have the most autonomous capability compared to any production car. Pulling off such a contrary bet was only possible because of his, Elon Musk's, extreme conviction and deep understanding of this problem. And of course, I was covering Tesla back in 2020 when this all happened. I was one of the people who bet on Elon. I was like, yep, I think he's right. They can get rid of radar. They can get rid of ultrasonics. They can do it all with vision. At the time, there were a lot of people who disagreed with that. And there were a lot of people who called me names for actually agreeing with Elon and the Tesla AI team. And actually, I remember that Andrej Karpathy, who was, of course, at Tesla at the time, said that the entire team was freaking out. When Elon told them to discard the radar, they all went like, no way we can do this. But once they got rid of the radar, they realized what a crutch it was and how much they were depending on it and how it was causing low quality driving, causing sensor fusion issues and all kinds of other things. And so the team got really behind it once they realized that this was the right vision. But this was something that Elon Musk himself personally did. This is not something the rest of the team did. This is something he did. So if you don't think that he really understands these problems deeply, and obviously he's a really hard taskmaster, but he also understands what the limits are and how well his team can do and how to make these things work. So you've got to give him a lot of credit, and of course the AI team who did all of the hard work. You've got to give all of them an amazing amount of credit. And I want to point out that the explosion in the humanoid robotic space has a lot to do with this as well, this particular bet. Because the humanoid robotics explosion has been enabled, of course, by hardware advances and battery advances and stuff, but nothing more than the fact that software has gotten good. In other words, the brains of it. The hardware was really getting there, but nobody could figure out how to control robots and make them actually work in a humanoid way. And it was seeing how Tesla did it with cars that I believe caused these other companies to realize what they needed to do, which was to build a smarter brain. If you build a smarter brain, then you can use that for output control. You can train on video and other input sources, and you can have a robot that actually behaves like a human and is very, very robust to a multitude of different input and output scenarios. So I think that the humanoid robot space also owes a lot to this particular decision. And speaking of that, he kickstarted the work on humanoid robots at Tesla in 2021, again before any ChatGPT or other obvious examples of the rise of AI. Just like the vehicle autonomy, Optimus is also being developed to be competent, scalable, and cost-effective in order to widely serve the world. I could go on, but plainly, Elon is critical for Tesla's success in AI. It is his combination of deep technical understanding, insane perseverance, and relentless hard work that have positioned Tesla to be a leader in real-world AI. Elon's technical intuition to make these important decisions way before others see it is unmatched. If not for Elon's ambition, Tesla might have dwindled to become just another car company. In the future, fully autonomous cars and useful household robots will be commonplace, and the world will think that this is how it was always supposed to be. Until then, we need Elon Musk to push the frontier because he sees it already. So this is quite the outpouring of support from Ashok. But wait, there's more. Let's turn to Milan, who read Ashok's article last night and then responded to it. Anyway, if you don't know, Milan is basically in charge of the Optimus robotics program, so obviously another very important Tesla employee. Anyway, he says, Ashok summarized the past decade very well. When I hopped into my friend's car, and he's talking about his own personal experience here, not Ashok's. When I hopped into my friend's Model S in 2015, it hit me in a weird way. That car was running software all around, had a nice big touchscreen, finally an actual screen, was receiving frequent feature updates over the air, and came with a mobile app for essential remote controls. How could a big car company build something like this? Didn't make sense back then, and still today for many. And let's just remember, this was like 9 years ago. Nobody else had apps, nobody else had large screens, nobody else had over-the-air software updates or any of this kind of stuff. This was incredibly advanced thinking a decade ago. Milan continues, my interview with the Autopilot team in early 2016 was very different than most interviews I'd ever taken. We first had a technical discussion on something I had built before with several engineers and the executive in charge of the group at the time, an actual whiteboard chat where we were all bouncing ideas on the matter together. The only places I'd ever seen the face of anyone above, at best a team leader during interviews, was at some small startups. Every one-on-one interview that followed was similarly practical, real coding situations you'd encounter as an engineer, not useless leet code trick questions typically found on other big companies' interviews. When we got done, the recruiter walked me through the office. Everyone was sitting literally next to each other. Autopilot software, hardware, vehicle firmware, and many other teams interacting live without friction. Eventually, we walked past Elon Musk's desk, and he was sitting right there next to the engineering teams, not in any separate ivory tower. 1 week in on the job, and I was already in a team meeting with him brainstorming Autopilot technical challenges, exactly how it went during my interview, and that went on almost every single week for the 8+ years that followed. It soon became pretty clear that Elon was directly behind that culture of pragmatic innovation percolating through all aspects of the company. Week after week, I've witnessed that relentless drive to build features that make people's lives better and safer, removing roadblocks and unnecessary layers one after another, systematically drilling down to the fundamental why or first principles. All of this while sleeping at the factory during Model 3 production hell, designing new vehicles, working on bill of material reductions, and launching new factories across the globe. In other words, he's busy not just doing this, but doing a lot of other things as well. During that entire time, through all of these chapters, news headlines, and other difficult company-wide moments, and while landing rockets on drone ships in the ocean, just a small feat there, Elon was still sitting with us in a room every week, often more, with the only objective of building things that will change humanity for the better. And I really love this insight right here. Elon loves to sit and build with these guys, right? He's not just in a meeting once a month and says like, oh, go do your thing. He's like, yeah, let's sit down and work on this together. Let's see how this goes. And I, as a tiny little startup company CEO, I want to emulate this. I really want to sit with my team, not just give them directions, but sit with them, go over code, think about things, bounce ideas off the wall. I find the way that Elon behaves with these people very, very inspiring. And I love the idea that he actually does sit down with them as much as he's able to. Obviously, he can't be there every day, but it sounds like whenever he is able to be there, he is there. And that's really, really cool. This is clearly an important mission for him. He wants this to succeed. He wants to give the time. He wants to be there. He wants to partake in this all, right? You can see this with SpaceX as well. When they do new rocket launches, when they launched the Starship recently, when they did the Falcon Heavy, when they did the Falcon 9, all the way back to when they did the original Falcon, he is there. He's cheering it on. He's crying when it doesn't happen. He's crying when it does happen. He is very very, very involved in this stuff. He's not hands-off. He is very, very hands-on. And I think that's critically important. I mean, if you're going to work hard for somebody, like really, really hard, you want to work hard for somebody who you can tell is passionate about it and really wants to work hard themselves. Anyway, continuing on, when he, Elon, announced that Tesla would soon start a humanoid robotics program to fuel a future of abundance at AI Day 2021, many once again laughed and doubted. 2 years into the program, and Tesla is actively testing early versions of what could well be the first full-fledged humanoid robots equipped with articulated hands, autonomously conducting real tasks in a real factory, by the by, that's interesting information, running entirely on the bot's compute hardware, and again using 2D cameras only. So no LiDAR, no other tricks, just using 2D vision. Really interesting that Elon let slip the status of Optimus right now. We haven't seen a lot of updates, but the fact that he said they're doing real tasks in a real factory and it's fully autonomous, those are three huge factors. This is something that's not being teleoperated by other people, and it's not being done in a lab anymore. It sounds like they are actually accomplishing real tasks, more than likely at the Tesla Fremont factory, but who knows, it could be somewhere else as well. But that is a really, really amazing insight, and huge kudos to the Tesla Optimus team. Whether at Tesla or not, I'd say the same thing. Without Elon, none of any of these amazing things would ever have happened. I can only imagine what a lesser future we'd be living in without his involvement and dedication. If you own Tesla shares, please find 5 minutes to vote. And if you don't think this is important enough for Elon to respond to, he said, "Thanks, Elon. You've built the Optimus team from nothing to the most sophisticated humanoid robot in the world, and that is very, very true." And I, for one, will add to this that I am very, very glad that this version of the multiverse, we get to have Elon Musk. Many versions of the multiverse, we probably wouldn't get Elon, and the future would be a much more dull and less interesting place. Certainly, I would not be nearly as optimistic about the future if Elon Musk was not in it. So thank goodness he is in our version of the simulation. All right, everybody. So what do you think about that outpouring of support and the couple of revelations we got in the course of those two posts, plus Elon's original post about loyalty deserves loyalty and how, maybe it's the Starlink IPO, I don't know. Whatever it is, the next thing, that Tesla shareholders will be rewarded for holding Tesla shares. Again, I, for one, am a very happy camper. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments, whether you agree or disagree, whether you're going to the shareholder meeting next Thursday. I will be there. If you're there, come say hi. Hopefully my voice will survive. It's very, very slowly recovering. Hopefully it will survive. Anyway, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing while you're down there, it really helps out the channel. And don't forget about Dr. AI as well. And in the meantime, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.